What happens when the richest man in the country secretly marries the one person nobody ever noticed? When billionaire Julian Croft married his family's maid, the world called him a fool, and his family declared war. They saw her as a nobody, a gold digger they could crush in an instant. But they had no idea. Her secret wasn't a weakness. It was a weapon. A weapon that could either save his empire or burn it all to the ground. Julian Croft had a life most people would kill for. From his penthouse in Croft Tower, he ran a global empire worth hundreds of billions. He had it all: the money, the power, and the crushing weight of a family that planned his every move. His world was a string of sterile boardrooms and strategic alliances that felt more like transactions. And his mother, the family matriarch Genevieve Croft, was the one pulling all the strings. Her latest demand was the worst yet. Julian had to marry Isabella Van Doren, a socialite from a rival family, to merge their empires and lock down the Croft legacy for another 100 years. Meanwhile, in the sprawling Croft Manor, worlds away from the stock tickers, was Alara. To the Crofts, she was just part of the furniture. A maid. Invisible. Her uniform was a superpower, a cloak of anonymity that let her drift through the mansion completely unheard. But Alara saw everything. She noticed the slight tremor in Julian's hand as he stared at hostile takeover reports. She saw the cold, hungry ambition in Isabella's eyes during a staged dinner date. And she saw the soul-crushing loneliness that clung to Julian in the dead of night, when the billionaire was just a man trapped in a golden cage. Everyone ignored Alara, but she was the only one who truly saw him. The walls were closing in. A hostile takeover from a corporate shark wasn't just a threat anymore. It was a certainty. And then, Julian made a sickening discovery. Isabella's family was secretly bankrolling the raider. Their marriage was meant to be a Trojan horse, designed to let them storm the gates and seize Croft Enterprises from the inside. His only way out was a forgotten clause in the company charter. To secure his control, the CEO needed to be married to someone with no ties to any competing company. He had to get married, and he had to do it now. It couldn't be someone from his world. It had to be a total outsider. Late one night, Julian found Alara in the mansion's vast library, quietly polishing silver, just like she did every night. And for the first time, he didn't see a servant. He saw a person with a powerful stillness and dignity. In a flash of pure desperation, a wild, reckless idea sparked in his mind. He offered her a deal. This wasn't a proposal of love. It was a business contract. $100 million. A new life. Anything she wanted. In return, she just had to become his wife on paper. His shield. He expected her to be shocked, maybe even laugh in his face. Instead, she just looked at him with a steady, unreadable calm and said two words that changed everything. "I accept." Julian thought it was a simple transaction. He had no clue she was playing an entirely different game, with her own rules, her own secrets, and her own price. The secret marriage was like a lit stick of dynamite tossed into the perfect, orderly world of the mega-rich. The headlines screamed, "Billionaire weds Maid," each word dripping with mockery. Julian was a laughingstock, a man who'd clearly lost his mind. His family's reaction wasn't just anger, it was a declaration of war. His mother, Genevieve, was livid. She was convinced Alara was a parasite who had somehow tricked her son. Family dinners turned into battlefields. Genevieve would make brutal comments about Alara's background, while Isabella, the rejected fiancée, would just smirk and whisper poison into the ears of anyone who'd listen. "Tell me, dear," Genevieve sneered at one dinner, holding her wine glass like a weapon. "What does one even talk about with a maid? The proper way to fold a napkin?" Through it all, Alara would just sit there in silence, taking the hits with a quiet grace that only made them angrier. But when they weren't around, a different story was playing out. Julian started noticing things. He'd come home, exhausted from fighting for his company, and find a cup of chamomile tea waiting for him, made exactly how he liked it. One time, he dropped a pile of dense financial reports, and as Alara helped him pick them up, she pointed to a chart. "That algorithm," she said softly, "it's flawed. It doesn't account for asymmetrical risk." He almost dismissed it, but later, his own analysts confirmed she was right. It was a tiny observation that saved them from a multi-million-dollar mistake. Julian started to see that he hadn't married a maid. He'd married a mind. Not a silent servant, but a fortress. He brought her in to save his empire, but now he found himself wanting to save her from his cruel world. If you're hooked on this story and need to see how Alara's secret becomes her ultimate weapon, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss what happens next. Humiliation wasn't going to be enough. Genevieve and Isabella wanted to destroy Alara completely. They pooled their money and hired the most ruthless private investigator they could find. The mission was simple: dig up every shred of dirt on Alara, find the skeleton in her closet, and use it to burn her life to the ground. They were sure a woman from her background had something to hide, something they could use to annul the marriage and throw her out forever. And they picked the perfect stage for the execution: the annual Croft Foundation Charity Gala, the biggest social event of the year. While they were busy plotting Alara's downfall, the war for Croft Enterprises was hitting a fever pitch. The takeover was days away. Julian was fighting on two fronts: in the boardroom against his enemies, and at home against his own family. He felt completely alone, caught between the woman he was starting to admire and the family he couldn't trust. He was losing. And as the night of the gala arrived, it felt like the end of the line. The ballroom glittered with diamonds and deception. Genevieve stood tall, clutching a file folder with a smug smile. The investigator had delivered. Inside that folder, she believed, was the weapon that would end this nightmare: a sealed record of Alara's criminal past. As the evening hit its peak, Genevieve walked onto the stage, a fake, benevolent smile plastered on her face. She talked about family, legacy, and protecting what's precious. Then, her eyes locked on Alara. "Which is why," Genevieve's voice was pure poison, "we must cut out the cancers that threaten to rot us from the inside." She held up the folder. "This is the truth about the woman my son was tricked into marrying. A fraud, a criminal, But she never got to finish. Julian moved, standing by Alara's side and taking her hand. He didn't know what was in that file, and in that moment, he didn't care. He wasn't going to let her face this alone. Then, something impossible happened. Alara gently pulled her hand free, walked to the podium, and took the microphone from the stunned Genevieve. "She's right," Alara said. Her voice was steady and clear, echoing through the now silent hall. "I do have a secret, but it's not what you think." She looked right at the news cameras. "My name is Alara Vance, but for the last 3 years, I was known only as E. Vance, the anonymous analyst who uncovered the Libor manipulation scandal and exposed one of the biggest fraud rings in modern history." A tidal wave of gasps washed over the room. E. Vance was a ghost, a legend in the financial world, who had brought down titans before vanishing without a trace. "The criminal record in that folder," Alara continued, gesturing to it with disgust, "is a fake assault charge filed by the same people I exposed. They put a price on my head, so I disappeared. I gave up my name, my career, my entire life, and became a maid. Because sometimes, the most valuable thing you can be is invisible." The revelation hit the room like a bomb. Genevieve was frozen, the folder slipping from her hand. But Alara wasn't done. She turned to Julian. "The takeover attempt against you, It isn't just business, Julian. It's personal. Her eyes then scanned the crowd, landing on Isabella and her father, whose faces were now sheet white. For the past year, I've served you coffee. I've cleaned your offices. I've overheard your hushed phone calls in the hallway. All of you ignored me. You saw a maid. You didn't see a world-class financial analyst with a photographic memory. She reached into the small clutch she was carrying and pulled out a single, sleek flash drive. This, she said, holding it high for everyone to see, is my real secret. It's not my past. It's my weapon. It contains a complete, undeniable record of every illegal trade, every act of corporate espionage, and every dirty deal that Isabella's family has made to try and destroy this company. I didn't just find it. I saw the patterns you all missed. I built the entire case. Your enemies thought they were fighting you, Julian. They had no idea they were really fighting me. She walked over to her husband, the man who had offered her a contract, and placed the flash drive in his palm. Your empire is safe. The fallout was instant and absolute. With Alara's evidence, Julian didn't just stop the takeover. He launched a counterattack that completely dismantled his rival's empire. Isabella and her family were ruined, facing federal investigation. Genevieve Croft was publicly humiliated, forced into a swift retreat from both the company and society, finally understanding the true scale of her mistake. The Croft empire was stronger than ever, not because of its old money, but because of the brilliant, quiet maid everyone had looked right through. In the aftermath, Julian stood with Alara on the manor's balcony, the world at their feet. The business contract lay in ashes in the fireplace below. He turned to her, not as a billionaire to a maid, or a husband to a contractual wife, but as a man completely in awe of the woman who had saved him in every way a person could be saved. He didn't have to say a word. Their marriage, born from a desperate secret, was now forged in an unbreakable truth. She wasn't the woman who cleaned his house. She was the woman who had rebuilt his entire world. And her greatest strength was never a secret. It was simply that no one had ever bothered to see her true worth. If you believe that true love is about seeing the value in a person that no one else does, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that prove the heart knows a lot more than a bank account.